Hi, Angela.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
Good, good.
Great.
Yeah.
I get to
If you,
sit in an office with office furniture. You get to sit in a 17th century stable. That's much nicer.
yes. Yeah, there has to be a difference in a way.
Great space. Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard you on the other interview, and apparently it's even made from an older building.
Yeah,
Your house.
that's right. Some of the beams, I don't know if you can see the beams, but
Same couple, yeah. Yeah.
so, yeah. So
Wow.
some of the beams they have holes in them, and they were used in windmills before because the holes are for the sports on the
Of course. Yeah, yeah.
blades for the windmill.
That's wonderful. Lucky
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
And
if you
it
hear
fits
me,
so perfectly.
if you hear me screaming or looking funny, there's a storm going on
Oh,
outside. And it's quite a spectacular storm. So all there are no trains running, the schools are closed, all the offices are closed. So
right.
yeah, so it's pretty intense. So if you hear me like whoop, then there's something going on.
Okay, so where do we begin? I'm not going to do a formal introduction, but from what I've already read about you online, you've done this you're doing this for about 10, 12 years. So you've been around doing the costuming for a while. And your background is similar to mine in that you got interested in costuming from watching BBC productions.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth R. with Glenda Jackson was one of them for me too. That was a big one. Also, King Henry and his six wives.
Oh
That was
yeah, yeah. I've
I
seen that
loved
one
watching
too.
those.
Yeah.
So we have
Yeah.
her similar background, and then you went because you're good in math. I'm not. You went into fashion design from the technical side, so you learned the pattern drafting, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's correct. So the university I went to had actually two different directions where you could go into, and one was like buying, trade, and production, and the other one was the design part. And I did the first part. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, mathematics was always like my number one subject next to drawing for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, and also yeah, like all these kind of yeah classes that had anything to do with numbers. I was really good at it.
Excellent.
So
So when did the
yeah.
costume history thing kind of kick in? Because this is more for contemporary fashion design that you were training for, was it originally?
Yeah, so I never really studied for fashion design. So I already had to make the choice before I started the school. Yeah, so I did learn how to draw, like illustrations, but not really how to make your own designs. And I have to say, I'm still not good at it. So I'm really good at seeing something and then making it. So, looking very good at a sketch or a design that somebody else made. And then I know how to, yeah, to how to actually translate it into a garment. So yeah, which patterns do I need? What is the pattern supposed to look like? What material do I need
Right.
to achieve that design? So that's really my strong point,
So
I
what was the
think.
first historical garment that you made?
Well, that was actually coming from the Tudors, from the BBC series. So I was watching that show together with my husband I think it was around 2009 or something. And I loved everything. I loved every piece in the show. And I didn't know anything about, costume history,
Right.
because nowadays, if I would look at it again, I would hate it.
Did
And
you
that's a
keep
little
the
bit,
Did you keep the dress though? Do you still have it?
sorry.
Do you still have the dress, the first one you did?
Yeah, I have, but I never wear it. No, no. And I never post any photos of it either. It looks really horrible. But yeah, you have to start somewhere, of course. And yeah, I didn't know much about fashion history yet. And I didn't know much about the construction of historical garments. So I was actually doing it in the way that I was taught at school, which is more like the modern way of making clothes.
Right.
Like the way the seams are constructed and everything. And yeah, I was really proud of my first costume, and I was wearing it to an event. It was like a costume event. And yeah, I got a lot of good comments. Like people really liked it, and they were making pictures of us. And I also made a costume for my husband, so we were like a pair. And yeah, that kind of motivated me to do it again, to make another costume. And yeah, after, you know, talking to some other costume makers and looking a bit at other people's work, I started to think, okay, I have to improve a little bit and I have to do it a little bit different. And then, yeah, you start to read about it and you start to read more and more, and you start to look closer at, you know, the paintings. And yeah.
So you're a bit
Yeah,
competitive. You want to make sure you have the best dress in the room.
yeah, and actually, well, there were especially some books that helped me and some blogs from other costume makers.
Right.
So that's really helped me to, yeah, to really think of how the costumes were, well, how actually the clothing was constructed in the past was so different from, yeah, how it is nowadays. Of course, because it was done by hand. So yeah,
Have you had a chance to actually get your hands on some original pieces to look at as well for construction and interlinings and things like that, how things were
no,
done?
not at that point. Later, yes, but not like 10 years ago. That was really from yeah, from looking at photos from other costumers, mainly how they did it.
Right.
And also, yeah, you can of course find a lot of images on the internet from musea. They post a lot of pictures on the internet from their collection, their clothing collection, also the inside of garments. So in the beginning, yeah, I had to do it in that way. And later, I found out that you can actually also, yeah, sometimes make an appointment with musea and then see the thing for real. And yeah, later I did that too. Yeah.
If they have the things in their collection, which you're fortunately in a part of the world where those things exist. There's
Yeah.
amazing things in Europe and Scandinavia that are just so rare this side of the Atlantic that we've got two shoes, single shoes from the 17th
Yeah.
century and a bit of fabric, a couple of fans, some lace, you know, just bits and pieces. We don't actually have anything full in
Yeah.
the collection. So it's wonderful that you actually have pulled this together. What's the first one you made that you were really proud of? Is this one of the ones we perhaps have a picture of, or?
The first one that I made that I'm really proud of, I would say that was the Queen Elizabeth costume.
The first English Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's not, the picture is not in the sheets that I sent to you, but
Right.
yeah, you can find it of course on our Instagram. But I think that one was the first one where I actually made like an interior with bonings and, you know, like the big ruff with the frame underneath it. So that was,
Right.
yeah, really more like how they used to do it in those days. And yeah, I still wear that costume. I still like it when I'm wearing it. So and I think that must have been at that time my third costume.
Okay.
Third, of course. So that's not too bad, right?
Third time lucky. Yeah, you one you like.
Yeah, yeah,
Can we
yeah.
take a look at some of the things? We sent some images here of some of
Yeah.
we talked earlier about which ones we wanted to talk about, and I think this is the ones here. Okay, so here are some pictures that we talked about of the garments that ahead of time, ones that I thought were amazing that I saw online. I wanted you to talk a little bit more about them. So this is Elizabeth of Austria from 1571. She was the Queen of France, right, at the time?
Yeah, that's correct. She was married to Charles IX.
Right.
And yeah, he was the King of France, so she was automatically the Queen. Yeah, in the late 16th century.
Yeah.
And yeah, most of the costumes that I make are from that period. So
your
late
favorite
16th
period,
century.
I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and also, yeah, late 16th and early 17th century. So that is more my favorite period. I did make costumes of a larger period, but I would say that 75% of the costumes are in this period.
Right.
Because yeah, it's for me, it's very much of a challenge to create them. And that's what I like.
am impressed because I mean, other than the fact that your head's turned the wrong way, that is that is pretty much an identical. I mean, as best as you could possibly do with today's materials. I think you've done a phenomenal job of copying the fabric and the jewelry and everything. It's really quite amazing. Now,
yeah,
is the fabric are you using like real silk?
Yeah, this is silk. Yeah.
Where are you getting the silk from? Is that like Scalamandre or something which is hideously expensive?
Well, I was a little bit lucky. Well, not for this particular costume, but for a lot of others, I'm a little bit lucky that I can travel to India for my work.
Oh.
For my day job, yeah.
Okay.
So, and then I always reserve some space in my suitcase.
Of course.
And yeah, I can buy the silk fabric in India for about a quarter of the price that we pay here in the Netherlands.
Of course, yeah. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. That's
but
amazing.
unfortunately, of course, due to COVID, we couldn't travel for a while. So it's been a couple of years since I've been there, and now I order it usually on the internet. But still, yeah, very often from India, especially these jacquards that you see, so the flowered fabrics.
Right.
I usually buy those in India
Okay.
through the internet, and yeah, sometimes you can ask for swatches in advance, and yeah, that it works actually quite fine. Sometimes you get a totally different color than you ordered, but
You kind of have to go with the
most of
flow.
the time it goes well. And yeah, the flat silks I order in the Netherlands without any like flower or design on it.
Right.
But yeah, the one you just saw is coming from India.
From
Yeah,
India.
yeah.
The
So
undergarments here, I mean, you're using real, this is actually wood splint you're using. I guess originally it would have been whalebone.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, of course, whalebone is not available anymore, which is
Right.
a good thing. And
Yeah.
instead I use yeah, cane or reed. Yeah, I don't know exactly how you call it in the US, but
Yeah. Cane, I think, yeah.
yeah, cane. And I always use 2 layers of like a very stiff material. It can be like a canvas, or it can be, this is called coutil. It's like a
Yeah.
very stiff cotton. And I yeah, stitch all the boning channels in it, and then I put the reed in all the channels. And the reed is quite thin and flexible, and it only works well if you like fully bone it. So not like with metal, you can leave some space in between. I also do that for other costumes, but if I use the reeds, then I have to make it fully boned. And like this dress, I think it had like 250 bones in it,
Wow.
which is yeah, it's really a lot. But
Yeah.
it's a very nice material to work with. It's you can cut it with a scissor instead of like a heavy duty, you know, supplies. And it's breathable, and it's actually, yeah, historically accurate, because they would use it also in those days.
Is it washable? Do you
Sorry?
wash it? Do you wash it? This is an undergarment, right? You're wearing it underneath the dress. It's not
Actually, no, this is the interior of the dress. So
the
I
interior
make
of the bodice. Okay, yeah,
yeah, I make fully boned gowns always.
right.
So I never wear a separate stays underneath it, because
Well, I think at
it's
this point in history, they are actually boned bodices, right? They don't actually have a
yeah.
separate yet.
Yeah,
Later.
I know that they also have corsets, because you have this famous corset from Queen Elizabeth, of course, that everybody
Yeah,
knows. But
yeah.
most of the dresses were so heavily boned. Yeah, and I mean, I wear these costumes in the summer to events where I stand in the sun, and it is really too much to wear two on top
Right.
of each other. So I wear one, and it's really shaping enough. So
You need a palanquin and
yeah, yeah, no. So yeah, and now well, here you can see the thing that I like the most about my costumes, and that is making all the decorations on it. And
so you're making all the buttons and things.
yeah,
That's
so the
amazing.
things, yeah, the things that you see in the top corner, they're
Yeah, yeah.
actually, I ordered them in the US. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, they're from a company. It's called Truly Hats. I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but yeah, everybody knows her. So you can order really nice. Yeah, they called pouches from her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, ouch.
And they're intended
And
for doing reproduction costuming for Tudor period primarily.
yes, exactly. Yeah,
I
and
hadn't heard of them, so that's new for me. That's great to know.
yeah,
But,
yeah, yeah. So she sells these beads, and actually I've been working with beads already since I was like 4 or something. That's actually how it all started, with making my own like earrings and necklaces. I was really a very small child and already playing with beads, and that's something that I still really love to do. So
it's
that's
a
maybe
natural progression.
yeah, that's maybe also why I like all these gowns so much, because they have so much beads on them, and so much like hand embroidery and handwork. And yeah, my mom was a teacher in handicrafts, or how do you call
Right.
that,
Yeah.
in school. Yeah, so I learned so much from her, like embroidering and knitting and crocheting, and you know, it's so nice that I can apply all these things that she taught me when I was a child, that I can apply it now in my costumes. So yeah.
Well, let's jump up to the 19th century,
Yeah.
and the dress on the left, I've seen it, the original one in Kent University, And you've done this is the inspiration for yours. You haven't done an exact
Yeah.
copy in this case. You've done
No,
something.
no, because
Yeah.
it's also a little bit different period. So my dress
Right.
is of, a couple of years later, the
Right.
silhouette. But I really liked the hem on it and the stripes, and I actually copied the hem design of it. And yeah, if you on the next slide you can see a few more designs with
Oh yeah,
beetle,
for sure.
yeah, with beetle wing embroidery.
I
And
assumed that beetle wings would be one of those things that was, you know, now illegal. And you can buy them on Etsy or eBay. They're available in packets of them. They're wonderful. I had no idea they were still available. I don't know why they're not being used more. They're great.
Yeah, they're used a lot in jewelry. So a lot of people make like earrings and necklaces from them.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can still buy them. They're not illegal or anything because the beetles, they're actually people eat them in Asia.
Okay.
So this is
The
like a side.
byproduct of the food industry.
Yes, exactly. So this is like leather to cows. This is the wings to the insect. So they're
Excellent.
like a leftover product.
Oh.
And yeah, they're also not that expensive actually, the beetle wings, which is a good thing because for a dress like this you need like 1,000 of them.
Yeah, I bet.
Or maybe 2,000. So yeah, so and they're really nice to work with because they're quite, well, they're hard, but they're also soft. You can cut them with scissors.
Right.
And
they
here
look
you
almost
can
like
see,
fingernails, right?
yeah, that's about the size of them. Yeah, you can glue them on your fingers. It will look quite funky. But yeah, you would have to clip them to the right size and shape because they always have the same shape, of course, and you will need like circles or diamond shapes. And then after that, I use the seam ripper to drill little holes in them.
Right.
And then you can just sew them on. It's very easy. It's not complicated, but yeah, it's just a lot of work.
And very effective. I mean, it's really an effective look. This is a purse you did to match the dress, right?
Sorry, this is
a purse that you like a reticule that you did to match.
Yeah, on the left you see the bodice, so that's the jacket of the gown, and on the right that's indeed a handbag that I made. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. And here's the process.
Yeah.
So you've also done all the black braid. That's all tacked on as well. So you've done it as well. Okay.
Yeah, and I love braiding. You can see that in like 50% of my costumes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can do it with any kind of material. You can do it with gold cord, or this is indeed like a green cord, or you can use flat or round, or you can use self fabric. We will see that later in another dress. You can use the fabric on its own to make a cord and sew it on. So it's such an effective and nice and beautiful way to decorate garments.
I imagine it also stiffens the hem a bit. It gives you a bit of body in the width of the hem.
Yeah, and you can make really nice contrasts. So yeah, and actually with the beetle wing gown, there was a little problem because it was ready. And it was a little bit dirty at the hem because I was wearing it outside, and you can see it's white, so it becomes dirty. So I was hanging the skirt in a bucket of water to, clean the hem. But then the cord, the green cord, was not like water fast. How do you call that?
Oh, okay. It bled.
Yeah. And so all the green from the cord, it went all the way up into the skirt. Really like all the way to the hem. So my whole skirt was green at one point with the beetle wings, everything on it. Oh, it was horrible. And yeah, I had luckily this special soap where you can, try to get that out of your garments again if you, accidentally.
And it worked.
Yeah, and it worked, and it became completely white again.
You're lucky.
Yeah. Oh, it was not even green. It was more like a yellow. It was like it was horrible. Yeah, but it was all right in the end. Yeah.
This is a matter of interest. What's the event you're at here with these other two ladies on the right?
Yeah, so this is a historical event.
Okay.
It was held in the Gardens of Castle. This is in Belgium, so it is not so far from the Netherlands. You can drive there in like 1.5 hours, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And this is something that you see really a lot in the Netherlands. We have, of course, many castles, and almost every castle organizes historical events. And then there's always a theme, so it can be like 17th century or Napoleonic or medieval, and in this case it was 1873, like a very specific date.
Right.
And yeah, they will organize all kinds of things around that date. So
You're not alone. There are many people doing this period dress up. Are these people
yeah.
who aren't associated with the castle that went to the castle for that event?
Yeah, so the people that you see here, okay, the girl on the left with the blue, she was like an well, how do you call it, actress, or like hired by the people from the event. But the other girl, she's also a visitor, just like me. I was also just a visitor.
Okay.
So yeah, you can just buy a ticket and then go there in your costume or in
That's
your normal
fantastic.
clothes, whatever you like. Yeah, and a lot of
Great
people
way
do
to
that.
spend the day. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the costume events that we go to, I would say that normally like 75 to 80% of the people are in costume, and the other people, they just like to look at the costumes.
Right. Yeah.
And they come in normal clothes, and it's a very normal and common thing here. And these events are big, like 15,000, 20,000 people. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
There's a
so these.
few events like that here in North America, but I don't nothing that large for that period. I mean, there's a couple of 20s events. There's one on Long Island, or there's one in California and that sort of thing. But yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, you can basically almost every weekend there's one. So
Right.
yeah, so not always really big ones, but there are a couple of big ones, and then there are lots of small ones with just a couple of thousand visitors. And
Wow.
yeah,
A small one, a couple of thousand visitors. That's great.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
dress is amazing. It reminds me of, did you see Emma? There's a they had came out with a new movie version of Emma last year or 2 years ago. The movie itself was meh, but the clothing was phenomenal because they copied stuff exactly like line for line out of museums. So this is what reminds me of the sort of work that was being done for Emma. It's beautiful work. It's like an exact copy. The only thing different is the color. It's great.
Yeah. I changed the color because I'm not really a pink girl. But for the rest, yeah, I really copied it exactly. And yeah, also really for the measurements, I try to, draw lines on the picture to kind of, get get it right in the proportions,
Right.
You can see that the flower is actually a little bit too big if you compare them, but yeah, no, this is
yeah, no, it's wonderful. It's great. I guess you're slightly longer waisted than the original dress. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's also true. My body is also a little bit different. And the nice thing about this dress is that it's very heavily decorated, but everything is the same silk. So everything you see on this gown is made from silk. Right. And that was for me a very interesting project. It's also very typical for this period. So you see it really a lot in the early 19th century dresses, this way of decorating. And here you can see, for example, the leaves on the hem.
Now, and did you sew those by hand or by machine?
No, I used a machine for this. Yeah.
Now, do you I imagine what your reasoning, I would think the same too, is that if you don't see the sewing, then it doesn't matter, right? You can use a machine.
Yeah.
They slice
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, the sewing machine gives me the opportunity to make 4 costumes per year instead of 1. Because if I would have to do it by hand, I mean, of course it's possible, but it will just take so long to make a costume. And I think it's also a pity of my time in that sense.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, so all the visible stitchings are done by hand. And sorry, that's the coffee machine. I don't know if you can hear it. And all the invisible stitches, also like the boning channels and things, I do that with the machine.
Right.
But sorry?
That makes sense. You have here's the piping as well. The piping would be done by machine. You'd spend hours doing that by hand. So
yeah, exactly. And like, for example, the cording, I don't know how many meters I needed for this dress. It must have been, I don't know, 60 or 80 meters. I don't know. And this takes 2 weeks, to just stitch and turn the cords. And then I stitch them by machine, but the turning you have to do by hand, of course. And it's really millimeter per millimeter that you have to turn. And here you can see it like a tutorial. I placed these kind of things on our Facebook and Instagram. That's actually how I show my work. And I also really like it to share this kind of things that I sometimes invented myself and sometimes read about it, but just this is how it works for me. And I mean, I also learned from other people, and I think it's only fair to share my experiences as well, so other people may learn from it too, and try it themselves, because that is actually my main goal with my costumes, that I can in a way motivate other people to also start making costumes, because it's so much fun. And yeah, a lot of people just really don't know where to start. And yeah.
But if you've also made some of the mistakes for them ahead of time, saying, don't do that, do this,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I'm also really honest about those things.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, no one has a perfect go at it the first time. And you said it took you three times to get the first dress right. So,
Yeah.
and there's also
Indeed,
got a
exactly.
Spencer jacket with it too. That's amazing. So it's another piece on top of it. It's great.
Yeah.
Did
So
the
that's
original one
what
have
I.
a jacket on as well, or
Sorry?
did the original one have the Spencer jacket as well, or?
No, I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Oh,
No.
okay. Okay. This is your edition. Okay, it's great. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So yeah, because I first made the dress for a ball. It was like a dance, a
Right.
ball in a castle. And then later I wanted to wear the dress again to an event, but it was in April, so it's quite cold. And then I thought I have to make a jacket with the dress. So and then I made a jacket.
Works perfectly. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and there you can see also again that all the cords are like hand stitched on it.
So here, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit in a
Yeah,
similar fashion to the rest of the dress, and
sure.
it's also
Yeah.
very typical for that period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this, I have to say, this is probably when I first noticed you, because there's a picture of you and your husband Jasper in the Rijksmuseum looking
Yeah.
at Night Watch, and he's wearing the outfit in the painting. It's just
Yes.
brilliant. It's so it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's absolutely great. And you look at it, you kind of go, okay, that line for line copy, basically. So it's also
Yeah.
made out of suede. Like, is it made out of buff suede, or did you make it out of wool?
It's like a suede
It
kind
is
of fabric.
suede. Okay.
Yeah.
Real suede,
So
or like ultra suede?
sorry, like
But like real suede, or like a fake suede, like an ultra suede?
this is a fake suede.
It is
Yeah,
fake
I
suede.
think
Okay.
it's like a brushed cotton,
Okay. Yeah.
because
It looks good.
leather is really very hard to work with.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh, I
very
know.
painful for your fingers. So I've worked with leather in some other garments before, and it's really quite you have like blisters all over your fingers.
But you can't tell. Here's the picture I'm looking for. You can't tell looking at it. Like from the picture, it looks like it's real suede. So you
Yeah,
can't tell the difference at all.
definitely.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
and there's so much handwork going on this costume. So all the braidings that you see is done by hand, and all the beads sewing
Great.
on it is done by hand. So
Yeah.
it's, if you have to do this with leather, well, good luck.
Yeah. You'd
Yeah,
have calluses for days. So yeah, no, for sure. That's
yeah,
amazing.
definitely. Yeah, and here you can see a little bit the process of
Sorry. The
yeah.
process of going gun. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really just loose beads and loose cords and all stitched in a pattern. I draw the pattern on first. That's always how I start. It's with this, like this marker that disappears after a couple of days. That's
Right.
one
Oh,
that I
okay.
use. Yeah, so or a pencil. I sometimes use a pencil, and with a light box you can transfer a design on a fabric with
Right.
if it's
And
like
then
a
you spend a
thin
lot of
fabric.
time in front of the TV, just gradually doing one at a time.
Yeah.
That's like a TV job to me. You find some boring movie, just like sew in front of
Yeah, indeed.
the
But it's so nice to do that work. I mean, at one point your mind starts wandering off and your hands just continue.
Yeah,
And
it does. It
I
does,
love
doesn't it?
it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's for me,
And
it's
then I
very
love this
relaxing.
premiere, and I love your sense of humor too, because you've got the box, the heating box on the 17th century, and you've got like a
Yeah.
plug-in electric heater in yours. That's
And
brilliant.
I have a food stove like that, and also with the little bowl inside. I have
Yeah,
all these things, but no, it was actually a request from the photographer.
it's
So
cute.
everything had to be accurate, like in the painting,
Yeah,
except that was his little joke. And there's another joke in this picture. You can't see it on this scale because the picture is too small. But
okay.
you see the three tiles behind the heater.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh yeah, they're modern images.
yeah, he
Okay.
made them, and he
Yeah,
painted himself in one of those tiles, and it's actually a photographer.
I just
And of
noticed that.
course, you didn't have photographers in the 17th century, so that's also
Yeah,
another little joke that he put in
that's
it. But
great.
it was really fun creating this picture. We were working on it for months because we had to find all these, attributes that you see in the picture.
Yeah,
None of it is photoshopped. Everything is real.
yeah.
And
Good.
Yeah, we found everything on Marketplace and, like all over the place, secondhand shops. And it was so much fun to recreate this. Yeah, the photographer was coming from Italy and he was really flying in, especially to the Netherlands to make this picture. Yeah,
Right.
so great fun.
I know people who work in the film industry, and their job is to get all the sets and props and that kind of stuff to dress the sets, and it's a fun but frantic job because you're never given enough money or enough time, and you
Yeah,
always want to get the absolute perfect thing that you can, and they're just running around to antique stores and buying
yeah.
online reproductions and like that to try and get the whole thing pulled together. So
Yeah, and
I think
I'm
you did a great
afraid
job.
that for costumes it's a little bit similar. At
Yeah.
least in the Netherlands. Maybe in other countries the budgets are bigger, but in the Netherlands, I mean, I get these calls all the time, and they say, "Hey, hello, yeah, I need a costume. Well, actually, I need 10 costumes, and I need them by Monday, And then I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not renting out costumes or anything. I make them, and I need to know a year in advance that you need it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's
And
it's
then
not a fast process.
yeah, exactly. And then I usually, need like 3 or 4 months to make it because I mean, this is my easiest costume, the one that you see now. It's like the most simple costume that I've ever made.
Exactly.
I made it because I needed a costume to work in, and that's also what you see me doing here. I'm working in
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And of course, all the other costumes are not for working,
Right.
and
Well,
that's
you've
what
gone
I like.
down a few social notches here, right? You're an everyday working woman here, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's because my husband, he organizes like historical banquets, like medieval parties. And
Okay.
yeah, so well, I help him with the parties. And then of
I
course I
wanted to
need,
ask you about that because this is something that I mean, do you create the events, or are you sort of for hire for other events, or do you do both?
yeah, so this particular thing that you see here, that's really my husband's
Okay.
company, and I help him. So I also help him with, like preparations and like making all the decorations and all that stuff. But it's
Right.
really his thing. And then next to that, from Walking to History, the both of us, we are more like you can hire us as actors or as extras or entertainers, things like that. So it's like two separate things that we do.
Okay.
Yeah,
So now
yeah.
who would do the medieval thing? You get those like for wedding receptions or parties or
Well, we do a lot of like stuff for musea, like openings,
museums? Yeah.
exhibitions, or also like on historical events that they need extras to, with nice costumes to kind
Right.
of, give an impression of the time and the period. So yeah, we are asked for that kind of stuff a lot, like
Okay.
maybe like 10 times a year. So that's really quite often.
That's great.
And yeah, we usually don't have to talk a lot. It's really, like the way we look and
Right.
just speak a little bit to the people that the visitors.
Do you do
But
the whole event too? Like, do you arrange for food and entertainment and all kind of thing as well, or
yeah, that's kind of stuff we do on these medieval banquets.
medieval
Yeah,
banquet? Okay.
yeah.
Very,
So
very cool. Now we were talking beforehand about, well, obviously what you're doing too. Have you been in any films, any background films? You've been walk-ons and anything?
yeah, actually, there's a series going on at this moment on Dutch television, and it's called The History of the Netherlands. And they start at the prehistorical period and they are going to end in the 1950s, I believe, after the Second World War. And we are both in the 6th episode, and that's 16th century. And it's about the life of William of Orange. So I play his wife, and I'm in the scene where he gets murdered. And Jasper is in a different scene. He's in a scene together with Margareta from Parma, and she was like she was from the Spanish family that was ruling our country in the 16th century.
Right.
And my husband is in a scene together with her. So we haven't seen it yet. And it's going to be on the television I think in 2 weeks or in 3
Oh,
weeks. So
fun.
yeah,
Excellent. That's
that's
great.
quite exciting. Yeah, a lot of people saw it already because you can see it already on the internet.
Right.
But we haven't yet. So yeah.
When we talked earlier, I had mentioned Tulip Fever, and you twigged to that, and I hope that's good because I think it's an amazing production. And Michael Connor is one of my favorite. I think he is my favorite actually. costume designer, because he's so meticulous and he's done such amazing
Yeah.
work in other productions as well. But I thought he really, I've never even been to Holland, but this looks like Holland to me. This looks like at its absolute apex in the 17th century, after the Spanish are kicked out and you've got your own country kind of going, and
Yeah.
you're at the height of everything, and that whole tulip fever is going on, and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
acres everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of Holland at its best. So I want you to look at to comment on the costuming, because I think it's amazing. Is it?
Yes.
Good. I'm
And
glad to hear that.
I was also very happy when I was watching this film,
Yeah.
that I immediately recognized like several costumes from paintings, because I know,
Yeah.
of course, a lot of 17th century paintings, because I look a lot at the images and I visit a lot of musea and where they have 17th century paintings.
Right.
And yeah, I've added some pictures in the presentation from the movie, and then next to it the paintings.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it was so great to see exactly the paintings, and so
Come to
many things
life.
that you and
Yeah.
so many things that you normally don't see in films, you know, because I mean 17th century is maybe not the most popular period for
Yeah.
people for costumes, because it's not always this flattering on a, well, I
There's
think
not
it
a
is,
lot of
but
films about it. It's true. I was sort of doing research before we talked, and I thought, well, what other films do we have? And there was The Girl with the Pearl Earring,
yeah,
and that's about it. I couldn't think of much more that was from the same period. It's a tough period to find. The
yeah,
Favorite, which is England. Oh, well, that's actually 1705. We're already in the 18th century at that point.
yeah. We have
So
in the
yeah,
Netherlands, in the Netherlands a couple of movies.
yeah,
But like Michiel de Ruiter, so he was like in the VOC, he was like a captain from a
okay.
boat. And well, there are a couple of other more, but I have to say that the costumes are not that fantastic. There are a few nice costumes, but you can see that there's a lot of costumes that could have been 16th century, 18th century, you know, that
Right.
they kind of grabbed whatever they could get
Yeah.
their hands on. And that's really a pity. And in this movie, you can really see that they copied it from the original images. So yeah,
I
here
was
you
even
can see
amazed
the,
with things like, for instance, the lace. Like, I don't know how they managed to get. Where do you get the lace from? Like, where do you get the lace from? Where do you get this
yeah.
sort of 17th century looking lace? It's amazing.
Yeah, I use a lot of antique lace, so I go to antique markets.
Right.
And most of the lace will be 19th century, of course, because yeah, you won't find real 16th, 17th century lace there. It's too fragile. But yeah, I like the antique lace because it's usually made by hand, and it has also this yellowing over it. You know, the color changes after time, and it's usually made from linen, which makes it easy to stiffen the laces for the colors or for the cuffs or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are also a few companies like the Tudor Tailor that they reproduce lace, like they copied the reticella lace from the 16th century in cotton. So yeah, you can buy those
copies around. I was wondering, because this film has a lot of reticella lace. I was wondering who does that, and it even looks like it's handmade, because it's not regular. Like, you actually see the irregularity in the production of it. It's like, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah. So I also find a lot of antique laces on these markets, and the funny thing is, it's not even that expensive. Sometimes new lace is even more expensive than these antique laces. It's really crazy.
Really?
I don't know, but yeah. Here, this is so nice. This costume, when I saw these pink sleeves, because pink is quite an unusual color for the 17th century. So, you know, this painting, if you see it, you won't forget it, because you think, hey, that's weird. This girl has pink stripes on her sleeves. And then I saw it in the movie and I thought, wow, this is amazing.
you knew exactly where he got it from.
Yeah, I knew exactly where he got it from. And this is even one of the first scenes in the movie. And I thought, whoa, this is going to be a good movie for costumes. Yeah, so there, this one also.
With the braid on the,
I have this book at home from the Abbe Stiftung. So there are a lot of these Dutch bodices in the book, and I immediately recognized it. So I think that, he has this book also at home. Yeah.
And actually, a shout out to you as well, because on your Instagram, I found you had a whole directions on how to stiffen and iron a ruff. That was you, right? You had that on yours.
Yeah, well, it's possible, yes.
It was like soaking it in starch, and then it was like this long process. But because I don't know how to do that. So it was great to actually have the instructions on how to pull that together as well. Like these types of roughs are just crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It usually takes me around 4 days to
Really?
stiffen it.
Wow.
Yeah, and the pity is you have to do it all over again after you wash it, because
Yeah.
the rough itself, it's really just a stroke of fabric gathered to a band. It's nothing more than that. And by starching it and by setting it and by heating it, that's how you create the shape. And yeah, if you wear it and it becomes dirty, you have to wash it, you put it
Yeah.
in a bucket, and the whole shape is gone. It's
Yeah.
just this strip again, and you have to start all over again.
I
And
have a feeling a lot of people in the time probably went around in a lot less clothing, and then when someone came to the door, they put all the stuff on and then went
yeah,
downstairs. I don't think they sort of sat around with roughs on all the time. I think that
yeah.
was actually not
Well,
sort of,
the rough starching was done by companies, so you would just bring your rough to that company, like you
like
would.
a dry cleaner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
but
cool.
there are lots of images of that, like drawings of these kind of companies.
Huh?
You would just bring them, and then I don't know, a week later you could they would be brought back to your house. You probably are rich enough to have it couriered over to your house.
Right.
You would have
In
to
time for a party.
maybe your
Yeah.
maid would just gather them, but yeah, there were companies that did that. And the funny thing is that actually, if you look at the paintings, like for example from Hendrik Averkamp, you see people walking in the streets and people ice skating and people walking on squares. Everybody is wearing the roughs, and even during leisure time. So they're ice skating, they're having fun, they're doing like ice hockey, they're still wearing the roughs. So yeah, it's something they would wear like a lot, and not
Huh.
just for the painting,
Not just
not
the painting,
just
it was a daily thing.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
imagine
So
the flat fold down collars were a lot less work.
yes, definitely. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
start to see that from around 1630.
Yeah.
That, yeah, first they wear them both, so like a rough and a flat color, and then the roughs start to disappear, and you get the flat ones. And yeah, of course, they're much easier to
Yeah.
maintain and to make and to starch also. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's this you can do in 10 minutes. It's yeah, it's quite a different story. Yeah.
You know any of the people who worked on the costuming on this film?
No,
Know of
like
anyone?
making them?
Yeah.
No, I
Well,
don't.
I'd love to know who did this work, because I think they did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually all the credits go to the designer.
I know, yeah. Well, or they might have a list on at the end, but it whizzes by so fast that you can't even tell who it is. I was
Yeah.
going to ask you about what do you think about the blue color in this? Because it looks awfully cobalty for an indigo blue. Do you think that would be correct?
Yeah, I think looks a little bit modern,
Good.
in
But
my
I had to find
opinion.
something wrong. They can't be perfect. So
Yeah. I
I
mean,
thought
it's
blue looked a
really
little
it's
off.
really nice, but I like the other costumes I like more from the
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, yeah. So but it's nice. And yeah, what I also find is a pity is that you see that in almost all movies, is that the hair and the makeup is usually so modern. you
Yes.
know that's yeah, it's also funny because 30 years later you can see exactly in what year this movie is made, because you can see it on the hair and the
Yeah.
makeup.
No, that's
That's
true.
so
That's
funny
right.
if you see costume movies from the 1970s, for example, or from the 1960s. It's so funny. Yeah, and the costumes are correct, but the hair and the
Yeah.
makeup always
Yeah.
yeah.
It's always the giveaway. Always.
Yes.
I want to ask a couple more questions before we go, because you also, I know you use a lot of old stuff. You reuse it and upgrade it and that kind of stuff. Upcycle is the word I was looking for. Do you use old fur when you're trimming fur things, or do you use a fake fur if you're using a fur trim?
Yeah, for my own costumes I use fake fur,
Yeah.
because I think nowadays they can make very nice fake fur that looks really like real fur. And yeah, in my opinion, it's not right to harm animals.
So I
For
understand
fur.
that. The
Yeah,
thing is, in the museum field, we often get offers of fur. Well, maybe this is because it's Canada. I don't know, but people are calling almost every day with, "I've got my grandmother's stole. I've got my rabbit coat." All these kind of things, and I don't want people just to throw it in the garbage.
yeah,
I think it should be upcycled, used somehow. So I'm
yeah,
just wondering if that is something. I know it's a very sensitive topic, but to me, if the animal's already been dead for 50, 60, 70 years, maybe we can get more life out of it, get more use out of it than just sort of throwing it into the garbage.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
I
just
have
wanted to see how your feelings are.
yeah, I've done commissions for people that wanted to use real fur in
Right.
their costumes. Like I've made a lot of like hussar uniforms, and they're always edged with fur and sometimes lined with fur.
Right.
And then I do it, but I only use like old coats.
Like
For
old
example.
clothes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
no new fur. No, no.
Well, it's nice to hear that it does have a place. It has use. So, I
Yeah,
just
and then it's fine with me. I mean, for me personally, it's not needed because yeah, I think there's so many nice fake furs, and but I mean, if my customer wants it, then it's fine. I do it for him or
right.
her. Yeah.
Excellent.
Hmm.
Well, I think that covers everything I wanted to talk to you about. Do you feel like there's more to talk about? I mean, we've gone for hours, obviously, but
Yeah.
uh, got to keep it within a reasonable length of time here. So that's amazing. It's been
Yeah.
so much fun talking to you and going through these images of the things you've created. I need to make sure that we get your name out there for the website and also your Instagram. So walkingthroughhistory.com
Yes.
is, and then what are the other ones?
Yeah, and on Instagram, it's also walking through history with an underscore in between.
Okay.
Do I say that correctly? Underscore, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Walking underscore through underscore
Underscore
history.
history. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. And this
Yeah.
is where you can follow you and find what you're doing, where you are, the things that you're making,
Yeah.
and the events that you're going to, that kind of thing. What events do you have coming up this year? I mean, now that hopefully COVID is kind of on its way out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've been busy anyway because I did some commissions also for museum. I did some stuff the last 2 years. But this year I have 4 costumes on the program, and they're all 16th century, all 4 of
Oh,
them. At this moment, I'm busy with number 1, and it's for a customer in the United States. And she's a dancer, so she does Renaissance dancing. And she sent me an image of a Spanish costume, so it's very tight and very like high clothes and with enormous sleeves, and not the most practical dress to dance in, I would say, but yeah, it's a very beautiful design. So I made the patterns already, and I'm now, as we speak, well, I was just working on the toile, the muslin, so for fitting. I will send this to her next week when it's ready, and then she's gonna fit it at home because it's in the US. It's of course a bit difficult to meet. And then we do a video call and we fit it together, and I see if I have to make any adjustments to the
on the
pattern.
12th. Okay, that's interesting. This is the advantage of having Zoom nowadays. You can
Yeah,
work with your couturier on the other side of the world. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. And what
It's
about
not like
events where you and Jasper will be appearing? And anything coming up of interest?
yeah. So
Medieval
we have
luncheons
already
or
the first one beginning of April.
yeah.
That's a historical event organized by a city. The city is called Grave, and they have every year this event through the streets. It's like a very old city with a lot of old houses, and all the people that live there go in costume, and they have actors, and they have musicians, and they have like a medieval market. Well, it's not medieval actually; it's 17th century, the theme. So they booked us to be there in costume. This is, I think, already the 4th year that we are there. And then 2 weeks later, we have one of those really big costume events. We're always the judges and the jury members in the costume competition.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah. So that's also in April. And then in May, we have another one from a museum. So we have really a lot coming up again.
It sounds like what's typical of in the past, when there's been a plague, it's been followed by a time of great explosion in arts
Yeah.
and culture. So we got the
Yeah.
Renaissance, we got the Restoration, we got the Roaring Twenties. So now hopefully it'll be a new era of art and celebration and
Yeah. And everybody wants to be there again, huh? Because
yeah.
everybody missed it for all these years. And
Too long.
yeah, it's been 2 years here. Also 2 years, everything was closed. And we just came out of a lockdown like a couple of weeks ago. We were locked down still this winter.
Yeah, we did too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And now everything is opening up again. And people are organizing stuff like crazy. So our agenda is filling up very quickly already.
That's
Which is
great.
nice. Yeah, it's very nice.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Angela. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about this, and best of luck with everything in the future.
Thank you.
And we'll follow you again on Instagram and on your Facebook page, and keep up with what's happening.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
And yeah, we'll talk again next time. And thank you very much for inviting me to talk.
More than welcome. Thanks
All
very much.
right. Brilliant. Okay. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.